Romancing the big bad evil guy belongs in jail. This is literally seducing the dragon type stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, the GM worked on this big bad evil guy probably forever, and then you show up and ask if you can seduce them or romance them? No, you can't. Unless you nat 20, then sure, I guess you can. Just kidding. Hey guys, what's up? Zach here, GM from the Mortals and Portals podcast, and today I thought it'd be fun to go through a tabletop RPG trope tier list. Joel from our group, and if you listen to the show, that is Dax, he actually found this, and we were going through this, having a lot of fun. So I just thought I'd share this with you guys. Share my thoughts on this, maybe give a couple opinions. Obviously, this is totally subjective because it depends entirely on your group, if you were a player or a GM when you encountered this trope, all those sorts of things. So if you have different opinions or had a different experience, please let me know in the comments below, because this is really fun stuff to discuss. I think we can all relate to all these things if you've been playing tabletop RPGs for any amount of time, like DnD, Pathfinder. I'm sure you've encountered at least, probably a few of these. So yeah, the way I'm going to rank these is mostly considering it being done in a long-running campaign. Obviously, in one-shots, you can get away with some more ridiculous stuff, but I'll factor in one-shots as well. And you'll kind of see what I mean as I get into this. All right, so the first one is Amnesia, and this is if your character doesn't have a backstory or is missing parts of their backstory, and it's kind of up to the GM to fill that in for the character. So first off, I think Amnesia kind of gets a bad rap in TV shows and movies. It is kind of a lazy storytelling device, but a lot of the best stories that I know that are pivotal to me factor in Amnesia. If you think of the Witcher video games, or even Revan and Knights of the Old Republic, they used Amnesia, and it led to some cool twists and kind of figuring out who the character was over time. So it definitely has its merits. I think where it wouldn't work as well in a tabletop RPG is if a player picks this simply because they don't really care about the character. They're too lazy to come up with a backstory, and then that burden falls entirely on the GM. And again, if you're a GM that likes doing that stuff, that's cool. If you know that player really well and you know the things they want to get out of their character, this could work out really well. But if it turns into a thing where the player has expectations for their character they did not convey to the GM, and then they're disappointed when the GM makes decisions for their backstory because they didn't give them anything, that can lead to some disappointment. But if you know each other well, and maybe the player shares yes, I have amnesia, but I want something like this to happen, or I want my character to discover this over time, then it can turn out really cool. So I'm going to put this in the I have some notes tier. So basically, this will work well. It's just you need to consider a few things before you use it, in my experience. And I've been in a campaign where a character had amnesia. I was a player in it, so I wasn't the GM or the character with amnesia, but it worked out really well. But that's because, again, if you listen to the show, that's Taryn and Ryan, so Waltz and Ryu. Taryn was the GM. They know each other well. They talked about some stuff, and he was able to come up with a really cool backstory for the character that Ryan enjoyed. Worked out well, but if you don't know each other as well as we do, this could turn out bad. So proceed with caution. All right, the next one is Animal Companion. I love animal companions are cool. This could be even something like R2-D2 in Star Wars. Obviously he's not an animal, but kind of that same can't really speak sort of deal, follows the hero around, can help with utility type stuff, or you can just have an animal. If you listen to Mortals and Portals, they have a hippogriff with them all the time, so I have some experience GMing this. I've also GM'd one where someone had like a bird or something, and this is fun, really cool. The hard part is the player obviously can't role play their own animal companion. I suppose they could. I've never done it that way, so then it's up to the GM, and it's super easy as the GM to forget there's an animal there, and then also you're really limited in the ways they can emote. So yeah, like in Mortals and Portals with their hippogriff, I constantly am just saying like, oh, he snorts in approval, or he stomps, he's angry, his feathers ruffle. And you know, that can get like a little repetitive. There's tons of times where I forget they're even there. The players kind of have to remember that they have an animal with them. Like in certain situations, it doesn't really make sense to bring an animal with you. Like if you're gonna walk into a tavern, do you bring your horse in there? No, you got to go find stables and maybe pay a toll to put them in the stables overnight or whatever. It's just like kind of can be this cumbersome thing. I mean, obviously it depends on how much your group cares about it. So I think they're fun. I think they're really cool. I like using them. They just have some things about them that make them a little bit difficult to maneuver. And then obviously there's like the rule, like the technicality of like the things they can and can't do, but you feel like they should be able to do. It's like, can I send my bird to go use this lever? And it feels like they should be able to do that, but maybe the rules of the tabletop RPG you're using say you can't, or something like that. So sometimes it kind of like breaks the logic a little bit. I don't know, but they're fun. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in. I have some notes as well. More just like, hey, be mindful of this as a GM when you use this, or hey, player, just know that this animal can't solve all your problems. It's not like a get out of jail free card. So yeah, I have some notes. The other one is body swapping. I've never been in one. Oh, well, that's not true. I did do body swapping once, but it was more that I had an NPC take over a PC's body without the rest of the group knowing except that player. Like I had them stay after the session and explain that to them. And then this player had to role play the NPC pretending to be their character, which was really fun because this was actually a villain. And then they did this jaw-dropping cliffhanger thing in a really bad scenario that made everyone think it was still the same character. And it wasn't until later they found out it was a villain. It was a lot of fun. I would say that this requires skilled players to pull this off well, and they may not enjoy doing this. Like no one really wants their character to no longer be a factor. Now there's someone else, or maybe they now have to play a different character. If you like swap PCs bodies, it can be fun, super gimmicky. Depends on how long you use it. Or maybe like they're not very strong role players and you can't even really tell they swapped bodies, or now do they have to learn their abilities and character sheets. It could be messy, could be fun, good change of pace thing, really depends on your group. I'd put this in highly variable. Yeah, again, let me know if you have any fun stories with this one. I've really only done it once, and again, it was an NPC to a PC. So yeah, gotta be cautious with that one. Burned village, dead parents. This is definitely a trope. The first character I ever made, the very first time I played D&D, literally watched Stranger Things, and that's all I knew about D&D. And then I found out, oh, you gotta come up with a backstory. I did some like barbarian whose dad was killed by some other barbarian and he had to hunt him down and blah, 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 blah. Major trope, but I'm absolutely gonna put this in easy to love because it's easy to understand. It gives your character clear motivation. It gives them a reason to leave their comfortable life behind. I mean, just look at Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. I mean, the whole reason he was able to go on that adventure is because they got Uncle Owen out of the way and all that stuff. And it's a very comfortable thing for a new player. It's really easy for them to wrap their mind around, like, okay, I've seen this in movies. I like this. This is fun. Makes me a vengeful character. Easy to love. I'd say if you've played a lot of tabletop RPGs, you can kind of start to leave this behind and find out more creative ways to make a cool backstory. But easy to love. Highly recommend, especially for a new player. Corruption arc. Corruption arcs are cool. Again, really depends on the player to pull this off, because now you're asking essentially the character to become a villain, but also maintain some of like who they were originally. So yeah, it takes some skill. It's also like not necessarily fun to have a villain in the party, but it can be cool if they're have like some incognito motives that they're trying to pull off in the background, like tagging along to get some artifact, but all along they want to steal it, and at the end it leads to this cool moment where they swipe it and now they're against the party. Cool stuff. Or maybe they're mind wiped or mind controlled or something like that. Used stuff like this before. Been in campaigns where players were villains from the very beginning, and then it led to a cool reveal. Really cool. Awesome stuff. I think it takes some skill and intentionality to pull it off, but I think it's cool, and it's obviously used in moderation. You can't just get away with doing this all the time, especially in the same campaign. But I would say easy to love. Like, tabletop RPGs, it's fun for those jaw-dropping moments, and you realize, like, looking back, like, oh, all along you were doing this other thing. How did I not pick up on that? Like, wow, so cool. And it's fun because the GM and the player are in on it, and it leads to some cool moments at the table with some side eyes and like, yeah, I'm about to pull this off, you know, sort of thing. So I think it's cool. Anytime the GM can use a player as an extension of themselves to push the plot forward, almost as another NPC, they get some extra lore the other players don't have. I think that's cool. It's fun as a GM to invite players into what you're working on and kind of let them experience the behind the GM screen a little bit. And corruption arcs let you do that. Crossing the river. I'm not like super sure what this is. I think this just is like getting over an obstacle or something that's stopping you from trying to achieve what you want. I mean, that's easy to love. I don't want to spend too much time talking on this, mostly because I don't really know what it is and I don't want to sound stupid talking for 10 minutes about the wrong thing. But yeah, I'll put that in easy to love. I mean, it's all about overcoming obstacles, advancing in your character's arc. So yeah, that's an easy to love one. Driven by revenge. I would say like literally the same as Burned Village, Dead Parents. Like, it is a very simple way for a new player to give their character some identity. It's a really easy subplot for a GM to implement. Like, yeah, you guys are working on this main quest, but I will use the character you're trying to get revenge on as like another villain to give you extra motivation. It's a good way to bring them into the quest, hook them, sort of thing. But same thing as Burned Village, Dead Parents. The more you play, I think there's other things you can use. It can get old, but Driven by Revenge is great. And I think I've always given, whether it's the main part of the backstory or not, I usually give every character some kind of rival, someone that wronged them early on, that they want vengeance on, things like that. I just think that's fun, easy to love. Edgelord. Before I talk about edgelords, let me just get a drink of my coffee here. My goodness. Just kidding, I love edgelords. I think they're cool. This, again, depends on the skill of the player, though, because nobody wants the character that's seizing literally every opportunity to be an edgelord to the point where they're always working against the will of the party, or always going against the grain, always being devil's advocate, and it just makes it difficult to accomplish everything. Like, where the party knows, like, okay, now that we've all accepted this, let's now convince the edgelord to join us in our quest, blah 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 blah. So I think if the player knows how to be the edgelord but in moderation, and use that as a reason to join in a quest rather than like go against it, it can work really well. And if you want a great example of this, shameless plug, check out the Mortals and Portals podcast. Ryan plays a character named Ryu, who is literally like the embodiment of an anime edgelord. All he cares about is personal greatness, personal power. He literally has his own objective that he cares about, but for other reasons has to work with the party. And he is constantly towing that line of seeming like he doesn't want to be with them, but then showing that he cares, and like joining in the quest for his own reasons, like using it as a lore reason to justify why his character is there, but from a meta standpoint, knowing that he just needs to engage in the quest and be a team player. Does this perfectly. So if you want to check that out, how to be an edgelord, that's basically a tutorial. Good job, Ryan. You're the man. So yeah, I'd put this in. I have some notes. If you have a whole party of edgelords, super annoying. If you have an edgelord that just doesn't know when to quit, super annoying. But edgelord characters are cool. We all have an edgelord we love. Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, one of my favorite characters of all time, is an absolute edgelord, but he's always there for the fight, and it's really fun. And there's those glimmering moments of him caring or bonding with someone. Perfect. Love it. Escape from prison. I'd put that in easy to love. Like, I think I've captured a character in every campaign I've ever done. I think I've probably been captured in any long-running adventure I've done that's like more than a one-shot. It's even a great way to start a one-shot. You know, it's something we've all seen in movies. It feels cool. It's a great way to justify like why they're like a level 1 character or like separated from their gear. It gives everyone a reason to join together. It's kind of like a more objective based version of meeting in a tavern, you know? It's like these characters have no reason to work together, but if you just have this campaign start with them in a cell together, they have a common enemy, whoever imprisoned them. They have a common goal to get out of prison, and then if they escape from prison, you have a very easy villain to have pursue them, like whoever captured them, whatever organization they wronged. So I think it's great. It can be an easy thing getting out of prison, or you can make it this long like heist type thing where they got to figure out how to do it. I mean, look at Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that's what the first one was. You know, they're all figuring out how to get out of those cells together, and then that's how they, you know, join forces for the first time. So yeah, easy to love. It's a good one. Fate and Destiny. So I've used Fate and Destiny a lot of times. I mean, it's in Mortals and Portals. It's in the campaign I did with the same guys before that. It's been in other campaigns I've been a player in. The where this can become a problem is if it's essentially the GM railroading you. Like, you have to do this thing. I've already written all this stuff out. So you're just going to walk along this path until you get to the end point, kind of like a prophecy type thing. Which, by the way, I do prophecies, but I more use them as like, this is the only way to achieve this thing, but this prophecy may not come true, so you can still die or fail. You know, Fate, Destiny sometimes can feel like I have to complete the quest, so therefore I will not die in this campaign. No risk, whatever. But the Fate Destiny calling is so cool. You know, Anakin was to restore balance to the Force. Doesn't mean he was, he did it in the most direct way that we all would expect. Like, oh, he's going to overthrow the Sith the first time he encounters Palpatine. No, he joins Palpatine and then ultimately kills him. Pretty cool stuff. But the idea of the world, the campaign world, like needing your character is super cool. Super easy to latch onto. Makes you feel like a hero. Lots of fun. So I'd put that in easy to love. Yeah, I like to know that my character's cool, destined for something greater. Okay, next one, Found Family. I'm gonna put this in greatest of all time, straight up. The idea that your character is looking for something, looking for their own, this like a new family, which is essentially what the party becomes, bonding over time through shared experiences, trials and tribulations, that unifies them, is great. So cool, because as a GM you can constantly give them threats that they must address, and that like ties them together. But if like over time that's the only way you can get them to work together, that does feel a little forced. You always have to have urgency, there's no like breathing room. But if they become friends and a party and a family, then they will want to help each other. Like, say something is really important to one of the characters, but the rest, maybe the justification isn't quite there, but they want to help them. That is very freeing as a GM. And like, that's what makes you as a player, like a meta standpoint, like feel sad when another character dies or they're in trouble or whatever, because you feel like you're family. If you just felt like mercenaries that could care less about each other, a bunch of murder hobos, then, you know, it's like, whatever, let me just laugh at the fact that their character died. Like, to get those really intense moments that, like, I like to play tabletop RPGs for, like, I think found family is important. Grumpy and Sunshine. So I'm assuming this is like two characters, like one's the nice guy and one's the, like good cop, bad cop kind of stuff. Edgelord, noble guy. Yeah, I think this is fun. There's kind of something like that in Mortals and Portals, with the character Tough, who's like just trying to get money and look out for himself and blah, 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 blah. But then he's got a friend that he cares a lot about, who is a little more sunshine, that's Jules, and they can get each other to do things like Tough can get Jules to cross that line and do some bad stuff, and Jules can get Tough to cross that line and do some good stuff. It leads to great banter. It rounds out the party. Super fun. And anytime you can like make two characters with like their dynamic in mind, I think that's really fun too, just to kind of give them like if you're thinking like a TV show, you want characters that complement each other, and I think Grumpy and Sunshine do that. I mean, okay, maybe I'm like reaching here, but I'd put that in greatest in all time. Like I enjoy that, but I play with very great role players in my groups, and I just like how they do those things. So I think that's awesome. I love when two players get together to make characters with this sort of thing in mind. Guild Hall. Yeah, I'm assuming this is like, hey, you're getting your adventures from this guild, like you're all in a guild. Like I know D&D does like Adventures Guild, and that's how you can go to a game shop and just drop into an adventure, because the lore reason why you're there is because you're all part of this guild. Super simple, super straightforward. I don't make my campaigns like this. I don't really make mercenary driven campaigns. It's great for one shots. I think it's kind of bland for a long running campaign. I like the idea of like a bunch of players or characters that have their own lives. They're chosen by something else, or some other circumstances throws them into something they weren't expecting or prepared for, rather than like, hey, we're all mercenaries from this guild hall, blah, 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 blah. So I'd put this in, I have some notes. There's not really anything like wrong with it. I just think it's more like something you'd use for a one-shot, where it's like, I don't have time to explain why you guys care about each other. You're all from this guild, blah, 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 blah. You can come up with some reasons like how you know each other. Don't care. I just would caution someone from doing that for a long-running campaign, but that's just me. So yeah. Hidden backstory. Easy to love. Well, you know what? I'll put that in greatest of all time. I love when like the players, like their characters all get to know each other obviously over adventures, but I love like unraveling like deeper backstories about them over time, like things they might not know. Again, I play with outstanding role players in my group, so they do this great job of like revealing stuff but then hinting that there's more to it that they're not ready to share yet, and then it's just like really cool when you do uncover that thing. Just like a simple one is like, oh, he's actually a prince in exile. I didn't know that when I look back on some of the interactions they had with other people, that makes sense now, or like, oh wow, that unlocks this new thing, but I just think that's really, really fun, really cool. It's like, again, it's always fun when a player like knows a secret that the other players don't, and the GM also knows that, and they can kind of share that, drop in Easter eggs during a campaign. Super fun. Greatest of all time. Love it. Horny bard. I'm just putting this in jail. Like, do I even need to say anything? I just because to me this is like from the memes of the bard seducing the dragon type stuff. Like, I just think sexual stuff is like uncomfortable. If you want to play like a suave bard and hint that they are kind of a ladies' man or whatever, however you want to do it, that's cool. Like, you want to do kind of the more like James Bond, but like not the stuff he does with the fade to black kind of thing. That's cool. But I just would be very uncomfortable with someone playing like a horny character. And I'm assuming most tables are that way. And if you do, then it kind of takes you out of the moment, and you're like, oh, we're kind of doing more of a cartoon thing here. And then it can just make a lot of people uncomfortable, and it's just a meme at this point. So yeah, it belongs in jail. Just a weird little guy. Perfect for one-shots. Mortals and Portals. The Dax's origin episodes, Ryan plays like a little toad guy named Jib, and this is just a weird little guy, like to a T, if you want to check out those episodes. So funny, so cool. Like the origin episodes, they all, like whoever isn't the focal point of the episode, like where it's their character's backstory, they all, like all the other players, just play throwaway like NPCs basically that either won't show up again or die, you know? So it's like perfect for that. But if he played that character in the campaign, like the long running campaign, it's just too jarring. It's just a one note kind of character. There's not much you can do with it, but they're super fun. People like to goof around, so great for one shots. Not great for a long running campaign. So I just put that in. I have some notes. Like they are easy to love for one shots. Get annoying after a while for like a long running campaign, I would say. So that's why I'm gonna put that in the middle. Kidnapped family. I'm gonna put that in highly variable, just because it's like a really cheap way to get someone to have to engage in a quest, and then it kind of starts going down the line of like, well, what happens if I don't save them, or like, you gonna kill my family, you know, like sort of thing. Kind of just encroaches into that like darker territory of like plot lines that I wouldn't necessarily want to go down. I've done stuff like kidnapping a party member and then the rest of the party is working to save them. I think that's cool. I just wouldn't want to be like, hey, the villain has like your wife or something. Like, now you got to go get him, otherwise like she's gonna die, you know. That's just not something I would do. There's definitely ways to play it off, and it definitely depends on like how gritty your world is and like how you guys like to play. So for that, it's highly variable. I just wouldn't want to, like, if I didn't really know the players, just blindside them with, hey, your son is kidnapped or something. So yeah, highly variable. Proceed with caution. Knight in sour armor. This is basically edgelord. A lot of what I said applies to that as well. Just kind of being that like barbarian, gritty guy. Super fun. A little one note. Also kind of can occasionally put them into villain territory, which could kind of work against the party at times. So same thing as edgelord. I think it's cool. I've played characters like that. I've GM'd for characters like that. Really fun. It's just more, if you're not careful, you can kind of just, you know, take the oxygen out of the tavern, so to speak. So, mommy daddy issues. I don't know where to put this one. I've definitely used this, and I think it's fun. Man, I'm torn on this one. I have some notes. I know I put a lot in here, but yeah, I've done this. I've had a one character kill another character's dad at Mortals and Portals, which has led to some like really cool story moments, I think, and a lot of like tension, because it's actually like they didn't know that was one who killed their dad, and they had a reason to kill their dad, and it was like this whole thing. So a little soap opera-y. So I don't know. It just be careful with that one, but yeah, like I don't know. There's just so much you could do with this one, so I don't really know what to make of that. I haven't done a ton of that, but yeah, I'm just gonna put that, and I have some notes. Murder hobo. Man, I want to put this in belongs in jail. This isn't how I like to play. I have played like I've gone over to a friend's house, and they were playing Old School Essentials, and it's like an index card type RPG, and your character can die super easy. So it was like really fun to play because no one cared when a character died, and they were always just looking out for themselves. It's to the point where I was there when a character who had apparently lived longer than any other character in the campaign, and we're talking like one year of real-time playing, their character just died, and they all laughed and then just looted his stuff and then like moved on. So it's like really funny. It's just not like something I'd want to do in a long-running campaign. And it just, as soon as I saw that, because I didn't really know what their style was, and I was doing really role-play heavy stuff, I was like, oh, okay, this is just, we're just goofing around, which is fine, and you can have fun doing that. For me, not how I like to play. So if like if a player showed up and started doing murder hobo-y stuff, I'd have to just, you know, stop the game and be like, hey man, like we're going for more serious stuff, so like let's not do that. So to me, belongs in jail. But and it's a meme, same as like the horny bard thing. But if you have fun doing that, goofing around. I will say the very first time I played D&D was murder hobo, and it was super fun, and that's what made me want to play more. But instantly I GM'd a serious game. Like it made me want to do the serious side of it. But we all laughed and had a ton of fun. Has its moments, but in general, I just kind of stay away from murder hobo. NPC betrayal, greatest of all time. If you listen to Mortals and Portals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it is super fun to get the characters to know someone and then be betrayed by them. It leads to super dramatic moments, especially when you like look back in hindsight. Kind of the same thing as the corruption arc. Super great. It's so fun to torment your players and make them question literally every NPC you put in front of them and think they're going to get betrayed by them. So yeah, great. Love it. NPC betrayal. Betray your players every chance you get. Just kidding. If you do it too much, they don't trust anyone. But it's a great thing to sprinkle into your campaign. Super fun. Leads to awesome twists and turns. NPC romance. Anything romance related, I'm going to put in highly variable. Because again, it just depends on what your group is like, what they want to get out of a game, if it's going to make them feel uncomfortable or not. And then also, like, does the GM want to role play romance with a player? Like we're a table of all like straight guys, so like whenever I have to play a girl kind of hitting on another player, and they're all like my friends and stuff, so it's good, but we all just kind of laugh about it. It's a little awkward, but we like barely do it, and it's more just to establish something and then like move on quickly. So yeah, it just depends on like what your group's comfortable with, what you want to do with that, if it's necessary to the plot, like how often you're doing it. If you're just doing like a full-on romance campaign, it's like I don't even know what game you're playing anymore. But that's just me. To each their own. Highly variable. Wouldn't say it belongs in jail because it does serve like character purposes to know that there's someone out there you care about that may be the reason you're fighting, things like that. So definitely use it. Highly variable. Party betrayal. I'm assuming this is like NPC betrayal, so I'm gonna just put it in the same thing, unless they're talking about like another character betraying their own party, but that's the same as like corruption arc, I think. I don't know. Same stuff applies. I love betrayals. Obviously use it sparingly because then they're just going to be expecting it all the time. But anytime you pull off a good betrayal that they didn't see coming, oh my goodness, that is as good as it gets. Player romance. Man, I would put this in highly variable, but yeah, I'll do highly variable. It's like I almost want to put that in belongs in jail. I'm not here for that. That's just me. But the reason I'm going to put it in highly variable is like I have GM'd for my brother-in-law and sister who are like obviously married, and they made like characters that liked each other or whatever, and they did some like light flirting. I mean, nothing I haven't seen them do just like out of game, so it's like fine. I just think if you cross a line where you just see them like making lovey eyes all the whole time and it's like distracting, and then or it gets like weird, you know, I would say, yeah, just proceed with caution. But yeah, I mean, no one's here for that. You don't want to feel like you're third wheeling someone's date and like GMing their date, you know what I mean? That's just, we're not here for that. PvP, highly variable. Like I want to put this in easy to love, in the fact that like if you can get, again, I play with great role players. We have great table chemistry. We've been playing together for years. If we're going to do something like this, it's justified. It's amicable. We all understand why it's happening from a meta standpoint. We all know we love each other. We all know we're just that this is for the lore and the story. But I'll put it in highly variable because I know at a lot of other tables, this could be the result of like, hey, I'm the rogue. Can I pickpocket the thing that the paladin just looted? And the paladin out of game is like, what the heck, dude? And he's like, I'm a rogue. It's what I do. It's what my character would do. And the GM's like, sure, I guess. Roll, thievery, whatever. Pathfinder rules. And then they do it and they steal it and then they get mad and then they run into fight and all the other players at the table just want to progress the plot. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is totally derailing. Like, if it's something like that, no. But if it's something like this character found out that the other character killed their dad and there was a good reason for it, but they disagree with it, and now it's like a cool, like, party fractured kind of moment, that's awesome. So I think it's great, but only because I know if we're doing it, it's few and far between and it's for a good reason. But in general, I'd put that in highly variable. Redemption arc. Greatest of all time. People love redemption arcs. It's the reason people hated the end of Game of Thrones, because Jaime Lannister had a cool redemption arc, and then he undid it at the end for literally no reason at all. I mean, just the most unsatisfying thing ever. But anytime you see someone go from like zero to hero or villain to hero, or they had a corruption arc and then they come back, that's literally Darth Vader, man. Like, fell to the dark side, but then at the end saved his son, saved the galaxy after blowing up planets. I mean, dude's awful, but it's still cool. Redemption arcs are great. Love it. That's about as good as a character arc can get. Reluctant hero. Easy to love, greatest of all time. I'd say easy to love. It's a good like start to an arc if you're just constantly the reluctant hero and you're not like transcending and becoming a true hero over time, and it's like every time there's a quest you got to convince them. That can be a little annoying, but it's easy to love. Yeah, like it's the whole like, oh, I put that behind me a long time ago, like I'm retired. It's like, well, we need you. Like that's fun. That's cool stuff. Reluctant heroes are great. I got a lot of great reluctant heroes in Mortals and Portals. Super fun, cool stuff. Love it. Romancing the big bad evil guy belongs in jail. This is literally seducing the dragon type stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, the GM worked on this big bad evil guy probably forever. They've been doing Easter eggs about them throughout the whole campaign. They're super excited about it. There's probably cool lore behind the character, blah, 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 blah. And then you show up and ask if you can seduce them or romance them? No, you can't. No, absolutely not. Belongs in jail. Leave. No way. Unless you nat 20, then sure, I guess you can. Just kidding. Seeing each other's memories. I love this. If this is my opinion, I love it. We literally had a whole episode of Mortals and Portals basically where their minds were all invaded by the same guy, and like he was walking through their memories, so the players got to hear more backstory from the other characters, which was super cool. And that's kind of what the origin episodes are, like backstory episodes. Anytime you get to like learn more about the character and like why they are the way they are, I think that's awesome. It's great in shows. It's all about like, it's a character driven thing to do that, and I think characters are critical to a campaign, so uncovering who they are and why is super, super important. So yeah, I think seeing memories is awesome. I always just feel like general excitement at our table when we do something like that. You can tell like everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to like see what this flashback is or what their dream is or blah 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 blah. So super fun, love it, greatest of all time. Surprisingly normal backstory. Yeah, like highly variable. This is just me, like, because to me, surprisingly normal backstory is like, I work on a farm, I've had no combat training, blah 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 blah. That's like kind of a gimmick in itself, which is kind of like just a weird little guy. Like, that is your character, is like you're super normal. I mean, this is like what Dungeons and Daddies is, which is super funny and cool, but like that is the whole point of the show, So It is what it is. I like normal backstories, but I do want something that can kind of tie them to an adventure in there. I mean, I'll put this in. I have some notes. I do see the merits of it. I'd say in Mortals and Portals, Waltz has the most surprisingly normal backstory, but there is still something there where he just grew up working in his father's butcher shop, taking care of his community. They had like a plague, so he stayed back to help his dad, but he always wanted to join the military. And then towards the end of his backstory, he finally joins the military, and then that's kind of what sends him on the adventure. That's about as normal as it gets, I would say, like in our world, and I do like that. And the reason he did that, Taryn, was that he wanted most of his adventure to be ahead of him. Because if you just say like, my backstory is I killed the like dragon that enslaved the whole continent already, and then it's like, all right, well, whatever adventure the GM cooks up, it might not even be as good as what you just described in your backstory, so you're doing a little too much. So yeah, I'd say I have some notes. I just don't want something so bland where the GM has to do like a heavy lift to get them in the adventure, and then it's constantly jokes at them being like, whoa, I've never done this before, oh my gosh. You know, you want a little bit of adventuring experience, I would say, but that's just me. Tavern explodes. Greatest of all time. You're right. This is how all the players meet. They all meet in a tavern, they're sharing a drink or whatever, and then suddenly it blows up, and then now they have to face this common threat. I love explosions. I love sudden emergence of conflict. I love taverns. I think it's great. Very early on in Mortals and Portals, I essentially do this. Like the end of episode 4, they're all sitting there talking in a tavern, and it doesn't blow up, but suddenly there's an enemy outside with a hostage telling them they need to come out now. That's essentially like the same thing. I think it's great. Springing conflict on people in a normal setting is fun. It's familiar. It's cool. Do it. Time travel. I love this, but it's gotta. I would put this in easy to love, just the way I like to do it. I might even put that in greatest of all time, but I'm gonna put it in highly variable because you need to know what you're doing as a GM before you do this, because you're literally giving them the opportunity to break your timeline, which has actually happened in a game I've GM'd before. Too long to go into it. Maybe someday I'll make a video about just more experiences like this. But it's like, yeah, I put you in a situation where you could break the timeline, and you did it. So that's my fault. You need to kind of put safeguards in place. But time travel just opens up so many cool possibilities. What I love about it is, say they go to the future, maybe they could see what would happen if they fail, and then it really adds weight to what they're trying to achieve, you know. So for something like that, that's great. Or maybe, you know, I think this picture literally is it's from Avengers Endgame, where like they had lost and now they have another opportunity through this, which is actually kind of how I used that the first time before Avengers Endgame came out. Not that time heists are original thought, but so I think it's really cool. It opens up a lot of like wacky timelines. I have done a lot of timeline stuff, not necessarily time travel, but like you go to an alternate reality for a moment to see something. I think where it could become like bad also is if you just like remove them from the timeline they were in and then keep them in a different timeline, because that's unsatisfying, because they worked to mold the timeline they were in. And if you remove that from it, it's basically undoing everything they ever achieved. So don't do something like that, I would say. But to use it as like a cool little side story, shake things up, something fun, show them what could happen if they lose, or give them a second chance at something. Very cool. You got to put a lot of thought into it though, and how it's going to work. Total party kill. Okay. I want to put this in belongs in jail, but I'm going to put it in highly variable. Like, I don't ever want to do this, but the reason I'll put it in highly variable is, say you're doing like a super gritty campaign and death is absolutely a thing, and maybe you have some kind of lore reason why they can create new characters fast or something like that, and you really all agree that you want this constant tension, and your GM is like a master of balancing encounters, so if they die, it's because they actually did something wrong, not because the GM dropped like 50 Turesks on them. It can be cool. I don't think it's a good experience for like 99% of groups. It's certainly not a good experience for new players, and it can be really inconvenient for a GM. I mean, I think player death is awesome, and I think it should always be a possibility. But anytime I have had a character die, like as the GM, it creates a lot of work for me because I do a lot of like tying the characters into the lore and the story. So I have to like do a lot of justification for getting a new character in to replace them, and maybe whatever story threads I had for that character are undone now, so I got to figure out like what that does to the world. So it's a big lift, and if I killed the entire party, then it's like, well, what's going on? And then it feels like a different campaign. So depends on like the type of campaign you're doing, the story, if it's a one shot, if you know your players would enjoy something like that. Like if there was a highly like to the 10th power variable, I would put that there, but because it might work for some tables, I'll put it there. A veteran adventurer. I have some notes because is this a high level campaign? Like, is there a reason they're a veteran adventurer, or are they a level 1 adventurer that's been on like adventuring for decades, and again killed the dragon, saved the king, rescued the princess, whatever, and then it's like, well, why are you level 1? Or it's like, I'm a 500-year-old elf, and I've been doing this forever. I'm level 1, and we have the same perception and wisdom and like, you know, all that stuff. It's like, well, what the heck? But if you're doing like a level 10 and you have some fun coming up with a reason why you're level 10, then that's really cool. You know, I like that a lot. It's cool to have like past experiences that the GM can use in the story. It fleshes out your character a bit. But yeah, I think it just depends on like the level you're doing and if it fits narratively. And you meet in a tavern. What a good one to end on. This is a trope. People make memes about this one. They roll their eyes at this one, but gosh darn it, it's the greatest of all time. And here, I'll even put it before this because it's like, hey, now you meet in a tavern, and then it explodes. Work together. But taverns are such a fun setting because you can pack so much into a tavern. You can put weird individuals. You can put the hooded guy giving you a job. You can put the table with the drunken arm wrestling orcs that you can go mingle with. You can overhear things. Super fun. It's like a familiar, like, yes, it's a tavern. We haven't been in taverns, but a lot of us have been in bars or other social settings in it, and it's suddenly you feel like something you've experienced in real life, but now in this fantasy world where you could do things where you maybe wouldn't go shove some guy in a bar in real life, but you might in a tavern. Don't shove them in real life. If you do stuff like that, yeah, it belongs in jail. Okay, don't do it. Like literally, you might belong in jail actually. So yeah, it's a very familiar thing. It's fun. It's simple. There's so much you can do in there, and it's just like a great cozy way for a party to meet. I mean, you're literally sitting at a real table when you play, unless you do it remotely, but you're all sitting at a table. You might have some actual drinks there, some snacks. Kind of feels like you're in a tavern. So why not be in a tavern in real life or in game? Great way to kick things off. Super fun. Love it. Yeah. So again, these are just my opinions, super subjective. Let me know if anything I said you disagree with. If you've had different experiences, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear it. Please like and subscribe. I want to start making more videos. Like, I know this is lower effort content. I don't do this full time. I hope, I'm sure you guys know that. Don't podcast full time. This is like a side hobby. So if I can do more videos like this, I will. So if you enjoy it, let me know. And one way to do that is to comment, like, and subscribe. If there's any other tier lists or threads or anything you want me to react to, please let me know. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, hanging out. Hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, we will see you next time, mortals.